The Western world gone crazy on us.
Yes.
The Western world.
That's not new, though.
This is not
that new?
Vladimir. This is the Western world.
Vladimir?
Yeah. Vladimir Putin. You know? Like Russia, you know? You would think Russia would be doing this kind of stuff.
No, we're beating
but
them in
Canada?
this. No.
Canada?
We can be more dumb.
Did you guys see Vladimir Putin? He was asked in a press conference, you're a dictator in your country, and you're what? I'm just gonna go right into this.
No, go.
And he was asked, why are you suppressing a political uprising? And his response was, well, look at the Capitol riots. Look at what you guys are doing. Yeah. And he just turned everything back on us. He's like, look at all the shootings that are happening in the United States. Yeah. You know, it just kind of like didn't even answer the question and just went right back to America. Hey guys, welcome to Cross Politic. It's the Sunday night special. Yeah, sure.
He's on one right now. I can tell.
You feel it?
You have your coffee and whatever's going on over there.
And I had my honey bun, which was
it's not a trifecta.
He's speechless.
It's good.
Okay.
It's got honey and, stuff on it.
Okay.
Pastor Toby Chalk Knox, I'm the Water Boy, and we have with us in the studio our good friend Rob Sense.
Yeah.
Rob Sense. He recently beat out Toby as a Logos board member. and which I voted for Rob because I was like, no, I want Toby over here, paying attention over here.
Paying attention over here. He's not micromanaging at all.
You know you have kids at the school, right?
Well, Rob's a good. Okay, hey, you think?
No, I'm not saying.
You just insulted Rob.
No,
you just insulted.
You want to go to war because we could go to war.
That's what I'm going to start.
I'm for real.
Hey guys, make sure you sign and you subscribe to our magazine. You actually, during the month of June, if you subscribe, you'll get this issue coming out.
Wow,
finally got it up.
That's what our managing editor said.
In the presence of my enemies.
Yes,
I could have used some of that this past week
when you were in the Southern Baptist Convention.
Was it that bad?
Look, I'm just happy I made it out there and I didn't get lynched. I'm just happy. It's the Presbyterian out there in Baptist land. You never know. You never know. They might want to get us back for drowning them. So I don't know how it's going to end. Sometimes
I got a great joke. There's these a Presbyterian and a Baptist and a rabbi camping out in the woods, and they made a bet to see who could convert this bear that was over on the other side of the hill. It's a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. All right, man. Work with me on this.
Okay.
The Presbyterian walked over the hill, tried to convert the bear, and came back with one arm off. The Baptist walked over the hill and came back with both his arms ripped off, and the rabbi walked over the hill and didn't come back.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I'll explain the joke now. I'll explain the joke now. So the Presbyterian tried to sprinkle, the Baptist tried to dunk, and the rabbi tried to.
Oh. Now he's dead?
Oh. Yeah, now he's dead.
Okay.
Terrible.
No more jokes from
terrible.
you.
That's terrible.
Can you bleep that out?
Speaking of dead rabbis trying to convert bears, we'll come to our politics and sense conference.
Wow. Are you done?
That was the most idiotic.
You're awarded
what
no
you
points.
Just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm trying to make this show as awkward as I can for Rob, our friend. Okay.
I don't think he has. I think he's got a pretty good, poker face. I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, he's going to be all right. So, Politics and Sex Conference registration just went live this last week.
Really?
Finally, for real. Really. More information is going to be. We're updating our website. We should have a full landing page of more details probably sometime next week. Ian, he gave me 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, more information.
But currently we have, Friday speaker lineup, Pastor Toby, Pastor Doug Tenaple, David Bonson, and Pastor Vody Bacham on Friday lineup. And then on Saturday.
What a lineup.
Real. You could just go home after that if you wanted to.
Yeah. And of course, the conference kicks off Thursday night. Don't forget beer, psalms, all that good stuff Thursday night. After party, all that jazz on Thursday night. And then on Saturday, we got a bunch of SWAT talks we're going to be rolling out. We got theologians.
SWAT talks. That was the word. I was trying to say it this morning and I couldn't remember it on the news brief.
SWAT talks.
Your script that I stole from your news brief, it didn't say SWAT talks.
Because I had it up here.
It's internalized.
I don't write everything down.
But you said copy and paste my ad, and then I said, kind of
make it your own.
And it said workshops.
Ooh.
And I was like, who wrote this ad? Probably Gabe.
Probably.
Y'all want to have this private conversation?
Are you done?
So we're super excited about what's going on in Tennessee. Make sure you guys sign up. The conference center is in Lebanon, Tennessee. It's a really cool conference center. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
And
very
members,
kid friendly.
And club members get a discount.
Yep. So club members, you got to log into your club portal. If you have a problem with that, that's where you go to get your discount and to sign up to get your discount. Email us at contact@fightlifeast.com. We'll make sure you can log in and sign up there. And then, of course, I do probably need to talk about the pricing a little bit. We have changed the pricing. We've actually got tons of emails about changing the pricing. We had to change the pricing just to better reflect the cost of doing business, really.
Right.
We
are
in the past.
We are not making a killing off this at
No.
all. We're actually just trying to cover costs.
Yeah,
for real.
And so what happened was in the past we'd have a family sign up and they'd maybe have 3 or 12
kids,
And
which
which we love.
we love, but we had to kind of adjust for that.
But it turns out your kids eat. just saying.
And they love the conference and they get to participate. We really want this to be a family integrated conference, so we hope that doesn't really discourage it. But you guys kind of understand what's going on.
Low, we're trying to encourage you to keep bringing your kids and keep bringing your families. We love it. We love it
without losing the experience. I really do enjoy it.
But we really do want to deliver a quality product for everybody, and we want to be able to keep doing this. In order to keep doing this, we do have to pay for it.
Yep, and related to that, we don't do group discounts like we did last time. The group discount is become a club member and you get a discount.
That's the discount.
That's the discount.
Become a club member.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Tell your friends.
As you guys have been probably paying attention to last week, because I know you're a good audience and you guys pay attention to
Daily
pastors getting thrown into prison.
Yeah.
Canada, again, Alberta, supposedly the most conservative province.
Texas of Canada.
I'm gonna take that claim that away from them.
Are you kicking them out?
Man,
they're not even part of the Texas of Canada anymore.
So they re-arrested Pastor Tim Stevens again.
Right.
And there's a couple things that bother me about this. One is it's not the national media is not really covering it.
This should be everywhere.
It should be everywhere.
Yeah.
A Western government arresting a pastor.
Yeah.
Right. It's ridiculous.
And we should be talking about as Christians. This should be all over our social media platforms.
Yep.
This should be absolutely. And there's only one in Canada I've saw. What was it?
Rebel News.
Rebel News.
We're actually going to play a clip from Rebel News. They were on site.
So Pastor Tim got tipped off that the cops were coming.
Right.
I think he calls Rebel News, get over here, bring the cameras.
Yes, good for him.
They're coming. And so I want to. We played various clips of this on our daily news brief, both me and Toby. But I want to play this section where the cops first come to his house.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Under arrest
for breaking that,
for disobeying that order, right?
Now, can you tell me how that order actually applies to me?
You were served with it, and then there was a gathering. One of them basically says that there was a gathering. So,
but the order listed Chris Scott and those who worked with him, and I have no association with the Whistle Stop Cafe or anybody who works with them. Do you have the order with you?
But it's anybody. I don't have the actual order with me. Okay.
Oh.
So the investigators that dealt with it have done that, and I have the order.
They manipulated this order, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So this order didn't apply to him. It was served to a cafe, and they've taken this order and then applied it to him.
And they broadened it.
So that they can. So they're just manipulating.
And they don't have a copy of it.
Right.
The investigators, they did that.
Those guys over there.
Did that.
I mean, imagine the cop's just doing the bidding without even knowing all the details of what he's doing.
Right. This is China.
This is.
That's basically on. Just on our CAD, so I don't actually have a printout of it, and then I just have the affidavit that you were actually served. Basically, these are the laws that everyone in Canada basically has agreed to abide by, right?
Yeah, Jason Kenney can have his dinner up in the Sky Palace, and
you know
no
what?
one's coming
Bars.
to take him to jail.
Jason Kenney did what?
He had dinner up on the Sky Palace. No one's wearing masks. Everyone's sitting close to each other. He had this big dinner with a bunch of people over.
But who is he again?
Jason Kenney's the prime minister
of
Alberta.
He's the guy in charge. He doesn't have to follow the
because
laws.
if you're in charge, you don't have to follow the laws.
Well, and everybody, all the world leaders at G7 Summit the last couple of weeks.
Did you see all those pictures?
They're all like looking up without masks, hugging each other, next to each other.
And then they space out for the picture.
And there's this one moment where a couple G7 leaders were standing right next to each other, and then they literally went to sit down, not even 6 feet apart, sit down next to each other, and they took off their masks as they were sitting down.
Yeah.
So they're standing next to each other, put their mask on, sat down next to each other, and took their masks off.
Well, when you sit down, as you know, in many restaurants, COVID just floats right over your head.
The convection's amazing.
You know what? It's like I said, it has nothing to do with that. I'm dealing with this, right?
And every police officer I talk to, they all say the same thing. I'm just doing my job, just doing my job.
Okay, but like
it's,
every single one of us, like me included, my parents go to church. They've been doing church online. We've basically been abiding by all these orders. Things we don't like them, right? But right now it's the laws that they basically laid out before us. If we don't like them, we have a system where we can vote, we can change governments, we can do those things. But right now, this is the government that we have, and we're hired to uphold those laws that basically the general public, the majority of people have voted for.
Can I ask you what's the highest law of our land?
What is the highest law of our land?
Yeah. What's the highest law of our land by which all the laws are tested? It's our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Yes.
And under that law, all citizens of Canada are granted religious freedom, freedom of association, expression, conscience.
And do we not still have that? Like, if they told you cannot preach?
No, I can't assemble.
I'm arresting
I
you.
can't have people in my home. I can't express myself. I have to wear a mask when I'm out. So all those rights are being suppressed, and we've tried to bring court action, and it still hasn't been heard in court 15 months later.
If you ever
15 months. Unbelievable.
You know, we always are going back in history and trying to say, guys, we would never be like the Nazis. We would never be that way.
Right.
If this police officer ever wanted to know whose side he would be on between the Jews and the Nazis back in Germany,
it's the laws. It's the laws of the land.
Right. Identified.
We have a process for how not to do this.
Right. And so he would be a Nazi.
You can vote somebody else in. You can bring a lawsuit.
Vote a new Führer.
But Hitler has already decided what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so we're going to operate according to that.
We just have to follow the laws of the land.
This is amazing.
Well, like what Rob said, China.
Yeah.
I mean, the cops are just doing the bidding of the laws of the land in China.
Yeah.
Till the end of September. That's
And are these not unprecedented times when it comes to certain things?
No, it's not.
We're
I
dealing
think
with
it's amazing.
you may not believe it, right? But
Well, I do believe it, but if you look out there, it's not.
I know
It's not
like
the
I
Black
said,
Plague or anything like that.
it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't. But maybe the steps we have taken have not like overwhelmed the healthcare system. I don't know, right? Like I said, I'm not the person who wrote the law.
I know.
You know.
I know.
And I won't enforce an unjust law.
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, they can have their gathering in the Sky Palace, and yet a pastor who gathers for church outside is being arrested.
Yeah.
You know, because the rules certainly don't apply to everyone equally, and they're not enforced to everyone equally. Like, why is it pastors that keep getting arrested for this? And if you have parents who go to church, or you understand that our Lord Jesus Christ actually commands us to gather and to meet.
And he also told us wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is in the midst of us. So we don't need a huge gathering.
Well, if you want to talk about that passage in Matthew 18.
We're not talking about that.
That's hilarious. I love that moment where the cop starts to try to pull the Bible out.
Yeah.
It's like, you're talking to a pastor. You want to talk about that passage? Let's do it.
So remember,
he's talking about judgment.
Remember exactly.
That's what's funny is like, hey, you know that passage? It actually applies to you, officer. God's going to judge you for this.
Church discipline.
But it wasn't the government that was telling you where 2 or 3 are gathered. That was Jesus who was saying that when the judgment is made when 2 or 3, I agree with this judgment. Right.
Yep.
So if we're going to talk about authority and where it's coming from, that wasn't from the government.
Right. No, it was in the presence of the church gathered.
That's right.
Where
That's
2 or 3 are gathered in my name. They gathered, and now they actually have authority over the cops.
Exactly.
With regard to worship.
Exactly.
Man,
wow.
upside down.
Right now, we're just doing our job, okay? So, and if you hadn't basically broken the order or the rules that are set out right now, I wouldn't be here, right? Do I want to be here? No. Right?
Yes, and when laws are unjust, then it's incumbent upon those who are righteous to stand up and say no.
We have one of the best systems in the world that we can vote.
You're putting pastors
we
in
can
jail.
change laws.
Like, that's not the best in the world.
What do you mean the best system in the world? You're locking me
You're
up.
putting pastors in jail.
Yeah. All the time.
That needs to go on a t-shirt. We have the best system in the world. You're putting pastors in jail.
Is it so good in Canada that they don't have any bad guys anymore who create crimes?
Apparently.
I'm just wondering, are things that good that they have to go after pastors?
Do you remember, who was it? Was it
James Coates when he went into
James
jail?
Coates was arrested the same day.
They were releasing a pedophile?
They released a registered pedophile with warnings to the whole neighborhood in the region that they expected him
to reoffend.
Possibly.
And they're arresting the pastor.
They're arresting pastors.
James Coates is going into jail.
Right,
pedophiles getting
released with warnings that he's likely to recommit.
That's ridiculous.
Right now, it's a laughing stock of the
putting
world.
pastor in jail.
You are right now.
I'm doing my job by taking him, but
The officer
Asks,
yeah.
who's putting pastors in jail?
Yeah, he's not the brightest bulb. And anyway,
That's why they sent him out on this job.
You can't. Oh,
And you've sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution.
You're by
I arrest people for theft. I arrest people whenever they break the law.
Yes,
Right?
and
This
we
is
applaud you for
the
that.
rule and the law in the land right now. So I have to arrest your husband. When I arrest someone for theft, I don't want to arrest that person and deal with them. But if they
I
break
do.
a law,
I
then
do.
I'm basically
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, hold on.
That's what you do.
You should want to. When as an evildoer, you should want to arrest them.
It's your job.
The fact that he doesn't want to and thinks these things are equal means he's an evil man. Like
Yeah.
That's exactly
that
right.
is wicked to
Come
have
on, man.
no difference of opinion based on whether someone actually did evil or not.
yeah.
sworn to uphold, I have to arrest him.
Have
So
you
what?
visited
So
every
the
person
actions.
that's ever broken these
No,
laws?
but that's
Have you
the same.
yourself
That's the
ever
same.
broken
Yes,
these laws?
I've broken rules.
You have too?
Of course I have.
And so why are you not under threat of arrest right now?
Okay, so this is the same logic we get whenever I pull someone over for speeding. They're like, well, that person just sped by. Why didn't you arrest them? I can't. So right now I'm dealing with your husband. Your husband's actions have put me in this position where I am acting.
I just want to, I want to point out here though, even regarding like speeding laws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The more kind of petty laws you have and you have to regulate, you get into these kind of problems where you
true.
can't, where you can't enforce it fairly to everybody.
Right.
He just pointed out, he used the speeding thing as an example. Well, maybe that's something we need to reconsider and how we think about that as a society, because you can't ticket everybody who's speeding. There's not enough cops to do it.
And actually, cops even use discretion depending on the situation.
Yep, absolutely.
They can choose at that point. I've seen, there's police officers who will get somebody actually on a crime, and they're like, you know what? Here, listen, this is going to be a warning. Don't do this again.
Right.
And they use their discretion at the moment to be able to say, I'm not going to give you this citation or arrest you for this.
Right.
The unbelievable, equivocating that he's doing right here.
Yeah.
Speeding tickets, arresting pastors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, the speeding ticket thing has been sort of this slippery slope into like using regulations and turning them into crimes.
Unless unjust laws always are that way.
You end up creating these situations, and then you think they're all equal.
What I'm sworn to do.
So you aren't ever going to be in this position, but you can continue to break them as well?
I don't understand your Jesus, but so
I'm just
the public health
questioning
order.
that-
so do you understand why I'm here?
I do.
Okay.
And
So
we
do you know
understand
what
that.
my job is?
Yes.
Yes. So am I doing my job?
No, you're
No
not.
one's questioning that you're not doing.
And you're
your
not
job.
doing your job.
I know,
I'll question
so that's
it.
what I'm doing. So your husband has agreed to come with. He knows that he's basically
I'm
broken this
talking
rule of
about
law.
the ethics of arresting someone for breaking public health guidelines
Because
when
we
you
don't-
yourself
it's gone beyond
admit that. You also break them.
No, you asked
just
if I.
haven't
You
been
asked
caught
if
on
I
record
broke. You
doing
just
it.
asked us if I'd broken other rules and laws. Of course I have. Every single one of you. Not one of us is perfect. Again,
Yes,
do you know
and
somebody
neither
who's
is he.
perfect?
The Lord Jesus.
Yes. Is he here right now?
No.
No. And we're all supposed to basically attribute and go by him. And like even God said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Right? So we're not getting into this philosophical
And the
debate.
gathering of the church is not Caesar's.
Oh, mic drop. That was the best moment in this.
And the gathering of the church
The
is
cop
not Caesar.
says, "Render unto Caesar," and he says, "And the worship of the saints is not Caesar's."
Yep.
Yeah, man. I am so thankful for the Stevens. I am so thankful for both. I mean, Pastor Stevens.
Yeah.
I mean, this is faithfulness here.
Yes, it is.
He's not going along just with everything. He is arguing the point. He is objecting. He's doing it peacefully.
Yes, he
he's
is.
doing it forcefully.
Yep.
His wife is standing there. I mean, even the crying kids. I mean, man.
Hang on. So this last week was their 14th anniversary, and this is what Raquel. So he was arrested in prison during their 14th anniversary
Yes,
this past week, and
I
this is
saw
what
that.
Raquel said. She said, "It's our anniversary today. 14 years, wonderful years. Truly, Tim is a faithful and loving husband, daily leading and guiding our children and me, daily sacrificing himself, his time and energy for the good of others. Next to salvation, it is the greatest blessing of my life to be married to a man who loves Christ and takes his word seriously. Tim loves us because Christ loved him first. One thing that has come up, both in my mind and in some of the questions I've received, is how Tim's actions serve to shepherd his family and church. Some have argued that he is actually being unfaithful since he's now prevented from being with any of us. I've wrestled with this. How is this taking care of us? How is this shepherding us? This, of course, is not a situation we should wish upon anyone. But what it shows me, my children, and our church family is that Christ is worthy of our full devotion.
Amen.
The throne in Tim's heart, maybe Toby, you want to help?
I don't know where it is.
The throne in Tim's heart.
Rob might have to finish.
Doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Jesus. And on a regular day, that would mean that he daily lays his life down for us, since that what God calls him to. But today it means that we are apart for a time, and that's what we need most. We need to be exhorted to dethrone the idols in our own hearts, to make way for a true king. We need to understand that compromise, obedience to Christ,
is disobedience. For anything else shows where our heart and allegiance truly are. Tim is caring for us by giving us what we need most to see Christ as worthy of our all. That's really faithful right there. She sees he is caring for his family. He is caring for his congregation by doing by giving them what they need most, seeing Christ as worthy of our all in the little things and the big things. And it is God who works this in us to his glory alone. So today we rejoice in our suffering. I thank the Lord for a husband that loves Christ above all else. I pray that God restores him to us soon. But if not, Daniel 3:18, and she goes on. That is faithfulness, and it's this that overcomes the world.
That's right.
This is the kind of faith that wins. And I mean, that cop, that tyrannical law system, whatever, this Canadian regime is going down.
Yeah, it is.
Because it doesn't stand up to this.
That's right.
You have no answers to this.
That's right.
Because
that kind of faithfulness.
Christ is worthy.
Amen.
More Cross Politic coming up next. If you can find this clip online, share this show right now. Get this out there and be praying for that family. More Cross Politic next.
My name is Jamie Piles. I joined Samaritan in December of 1996, so I'm coming up on 24 years. When people ask me, does it really work? I say, oh, it works fantastic. I send my money to somebody every month. But we had a need. My wife spent a little bit of time in the hospital about 3 months ago, and so I had a checklist with about 39 names on it, and 39 checks came in. Some of the cards, some of the things people had to say, it was amazing to watch.
I think we're
Free Tim Stevens.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Free Tim Stevens.
Amen. I was going to say, I think we're out of tissue.
Yeah, what are you making us all cry in here?
Thanks, Toby. That was helpful.
Scrambled. I found it for you. I got it. I got you, man. Even though you didn't vote for me for a school board, I got you, man. I got you. Hey, welcome back to Cross Politic on the one and only Fight Laugh Feast Network. So grateful to have Mr. Rob Sense in the studio with us today. He served as marketing and communications executive for the last 15 years.
We used to work together.
Oh, wow. He
don't admit that.
He spends his time doing research, content creation, and other fun stuff. That's what it says. He's been working in data and economics for a long time. His family lives here in Moscow. Deacon also, right?
That's right.
At Christ Church.
Yeah.
So thanks, Rob, for joining us on Cross Politic.
Great to be here.
What's this other fun stuff? I just want to know what that is.
Like this.
Okay, I see.
He says this is fun.
Wasn't until you started making him cry. Hey, Rob, you've been doing some work on population and labor market stuff, and you've recently been using this word that I need you to define for us: Sansdemic.
Yep.
Well, I've heard of the.
Is that a font?
I've heard of. No. Okay. I've heard of the pandemic, but what's the Sansdemic?
Yeah, Sansdemic. Well, the word pandemic means all people.
Right.
So we've gotten really broken into.
Did you have a classical education?
No.
Wow.
I Googled it. So. Now, pandemic means all people.
Yeah.
And we've really been broken into that term for the past year plus, right? We know that word.
Yes.
And when we thought about the issue with people, so we're looking, even last year when we saw the labor market, we saw a lot of unemployment.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, we saw a lot of businesses say we just can't hire people, right?
So meaning there's not people to hire.
Yeah, they're still struggling. Usually in a recession or hard economic time, you see people lining up for jobs. So one job opening, 100 people apply.
Right.
So we didn't see that last year from an economic point of view.
Yeah.
And so we had to think about people again. So we had that term pandemic.
Right.
But then we also kind of started to see this other issue with people, which is without people. So SANS is without people.
Right.
And so that's where it came from.
So you mentioned in a normal depression, you see this, the lineup, there's one job and 100 applicants or something like that. What are the signs that people might be seeing around them that they maybe don't recognize, but it's like that's the signs of a Sansdemic?
Yeah. So everywhere you go right now, you see help wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Help wanted. And you don't just see help wanted, you're actually starting to see a decline in some of the services that you would typically get.
Really?
A thing like a restaurant deciding to be closed, not because of a pandemic, they're deciding to be closed because of a Sansdemic.
Because they don't have enough workers.
They don't have people.
They've changed their hours. A number of restaurants in our town have adjusted their
Even
hours.
here?
Yep. Sonic. I pulled up to Sonic like a couple weeks ago, and I pulled into the bay with my kids because you like to eat in the bay with your kids.
Right.
And the
Some people
love that.
do.
My kids love
the wrenches do.
Everybody's different.
We love it. And I pulled into the bay, and there's the piece of paper plastered on the speaker sign that you speak into, and it said, because due to the national labor market shortage, we cannot serve at the bays. Please go through the drive-through.
Wow.
This is in our town.
National labor shortage?
Yep.
It actually said that.
Yeah.
Well, out in Tennessee, every hotel was slow. Now, Tennessee was hopping. It was hopping. I mean, it's amazing how many people were out there that weren't a part of the Southern Baptist Convention. It was just massive amounts of people out there. And I think they're just happy to be open.
Yeah.
Place to go party. But every hotel was running slow. And I was like, what's going on? It's like they don't have enough help.
Wow.
So we have this influx of people now who are coming back from the pandemic, and then there's nobody there to service them. But we think that, it's just because everybody stopped working and is out. But it's bigger than that, though, right?
Yeah. Well, the big thing that is contributing to that in the immediacy is the government benefits, right? So the government's been paying people essentially in that low entry wage level to not work. So the employers
both the state and the federal government has been doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said employers do what?
So the hotel or the fast food place, they're being the government's essentially competing right in that wage category. For those
is this with like
jobs.
unemployment?
Yeah.
Unemployment benefits?
Yep.
Are you thinking also of like all the stimulus money that's going out as well? But it's like floating people so they don't have to work, or if they work, they can work very low hours.
Yeah.
They don't need full-time employment, and that's subsidizing then this. It's like, do I want to take this job where I make whatever an hour, $12 an hour, or I can take unemployment checks?
And the government essentially, typically when that happens, you can go get that unemployment, and then the government checks. Right, so you file for it, and then you have to prove that you're at least looking.
Yeah.
Well,
looking
they
for a
didn't
job.
do that.
Yeah.
You can apply for it, and no one checks.
They're not checking anymore.
No.
Well, because part of the problem is normally unemployment is at the state level, which is what's going on in our state. So every state is actually paying unemployment to these people.
Right.
But in the last couple rounds of stimulus that has happened, the federal government is also paying unemployment too. So you got a couple layers of unemployment. So I don't think the federal government has ever participated in an unemployment insurance program until these stimulus packages. That'd be actually something interesting to research. And so now you got double incentive not to work, not only at the state level, but at the federal level in the state of Idaho. And that federal unemployment is actually, I think, goes through like September, October. Idaho's opting out. This is the last month that Idaho's in it, but they're still going to have state unemployment insurance money going out. And we're hearing June. Like at the end of June, it's going to be done.
Yeah.
At least the federal money is.
Yeah, and typically somebody's checking, and
Now they're not.
that money just went out without anybody
Now,
checking.
There's more going on though than just
Yeah.
the government paying. That's
Right.
one problem. But there's a bunch of people leaving the workforce at the same time.
Right. So it would be easy to assume right now, well, as soon as the government sort of backs off and stops those payments, things are going to go back to normal.
Right.
And as we looked at the data, we saw another problem that I think is bigger. So the word pandemic versus Sansdemic, I think Sansdemic is the thing we actually really need to be paying attention to as a people, as a society, as an economy, because once those government benefits go away, there's 3 other big factors that all really coalesced and came together in 2020 in a way that sort of flew below the radar. Like we were so obsessed with like, here's the racial strife, here's the pandemic, here's these like blippy, here's the recession, here's these blippy, sharp, pronounced moments that completely captured our attention as a society.
Right.
And we did not pay attention to these other, almost like a fog creeping in on us. And now it's all around us and nobody really talked about it.
And what are those 3 things?
So what happened was, it really does start with the baby boomers.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So from 1946 to 1964, there were 76 million people born that really shaped and they shaped and created the entire economy and culture we live in today. Right? So you think about, from after the Civil War until really the 1960s and 70s, even we created so many institutions of higher learning, right? Like we just were creating colleges, universities like crazy for about 150 years. We then saw a lot of people just going to school, right? And that generation really solidified and created that. That generation went to school like crazy. And then what happened was they grew up in a home of 4 kids. Okay. So they grew up in a home of 4 kids. They grow up, a lot of them went to college. This is the first time we've ever seen that happen. We have a huge number of colleges. The colleges think this is great. We're like, our enrollment's gone crazy. And then when they exit college and go to the labor market, what happened? Well, men went to work, and for the first time we've ever seen it, women went to work. So 60 plus.
In large amounts.
Yeah, in large amounts. So over 60% of the women in the baby boom generation also worked. So and then you get married, you have husband, wife working in a way that we've never seen before, which has been a huge, like it's created a massive
money, dollar move.
It's created the wealthiest generation this history of the planet has ever seen. They've amassed $68 trillion.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
The average baby boomer couple has 1.2 million. That's average.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
So then they're going along, and what did they not do? They didn't have 4 kids.
Wow.
They had 1, maybe 2.
Okay.
Okay. So
1.8.
Yeah, they had 1.8.
Do we have a chart on this? I think.
Yeah, it's what go back to
right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was
Fertility rates there.
They worked. They created an economy.
Right.
They went to school. They got married. They created a massive economy.
Made a lot of money.
Made money, but they didn't remake themselves.
They didn't make people.
Wow.
Yep. They stopped. Basically, in 1971, we stopped.
That's when we fell below replacement.
Yep.
Yeah, we brought this up one time about a month or 2 ago, and I got my dates wrong, and I didn't realize it was that long. Like we've been below replacement.
And explain replacement real quick.
So isn't the number 2.1 is considered replacement? So you're at least replacing yourself at 2.1.
So it would be every childbearing woman has to have 2.1, right? Because that replaces her and her husband.
Right.
And then the 0.1 is basically for mortality and things like that.
Exactly.
So that number globally is a very important number to know.
Right.
And 2.1 tells you if you're in a growing place or a shrinking place, and it really tells you if you're in a place that's going to be prosperous in the future.
Right. So if you go below 2.1, where are we at now?
Like 1.7 in some places. Really kind of it moves up and down. But like we're 1.8, 1.9.
And what's the results of kind of that going below that?
You start to depopulate.
And if you start depopulating, that's where you start having not enough workers.
Yeah, that's.
And if you don't have enough, you're at Sonic, and you can't go under the, what do you call that thing?
The bay.
The bay. You can't go eat with your family in the bay. But we're talking about but that's leads to contraction of the whole economy.
Yes.
We're talking about not having enough workers, so businesses have to shrink. You can't do as much,
or go away,
or completely close down. Yeah. It's shrinking. So you have the. I want to talk a little bit about the family dynamics.
Yeah,
because you say, okay, you get these really rich, wealthy boomer families who have 1.8 kids.
Yeah.
What happens to those kids?
Yeah. So right now, what you go back to that one, Gabe. Last year, 3 million boomers left the market. So typically you see there 2.2 or 1.5 left the market. And that quick exodus of 3 million people who are all pretty productive, high earners, why'd they leave? Well, they're a 59-year-old who got tired of Zoom calls. They got tired of just being at home all the time.
Right.
So if, let's say, the example I like to give is he's a senior manager at an aerospace company outside of DC making $450.
Yeah.
And she's a senior counsel at a nonprofit in DC making $6.
Yeah.
Right?
No, she's 50,000.
No, 600,000. so, and that, I mean, I'm not joking.
No, and so they don't need that.
Yeah.
So the two of them are like, well, she's like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been, we've got enough money.
Let's go buy a beach house and retire.
Yeah, let's retire. And he's like, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And so then little Billy is living in Georgetown, doing a little bit of graphic design or video production part time. He's 28.
Yeah.
He's not married.
Right.
And they're like,
Their son, little Billy.
yeah, little Billy,
who's 28.
Yeah. Why don't you
come to our beach house?
We got a big house in McLean, Virginia.
Yeah.
Why don't you get this nasty apartment in Georgetown? It's like $3,000 a month.
Right.
Why don't you come back home and we'll take care of you?
Wow.
Right. And Billy's got a girlfriend off and on. He's got a part-time job.
Yeah.
But he knows they're loaded.
So you've got, so it's on both sides.
Yeah.
The wealth has created the situation where you have less incentive to work it out, work longer. You don't need to have that. You can retire early. That's sped up by the COVID stuff and the Zoom calls and all the rest of it, and maybe even some like health fears and stuff like that. Like I just want to stay home. I don't want to mix with people. I don't want to get sick. I'm more in the higher risk factors. But they don't need it, so they can retire. So a bunch more people retire. But meanwhile, did you call him Billy? Billy's grown up in this. He's the only child, probably, or one of two.
Yeah.
He's been coddled. They've got plenty of money to take care of him. He doesn't need to work full time. Yeah. He probably hasn't had to work as hard. The demands on him, when you're one of four, at least. Well, yeah. You got to kind of tussle.
Earn your way.
Baby boomers got kicked out of the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
They 18, 19. Look,
mom and dad are saying,
we need you to go get a job.
Exactly.
Yep.
But now you've got little Billy. He maybe, he did Georgetown for a little while. He's done some college.
I was going to say, he's got some debt that the government's about to pay for.
But mom and dad have been helping him along all the time. He's got a nice car, whatever. And he knows that he's got that safety net. And so he can do the part-time graphic design thing or move home with mom and dad. So he's not part of the labor force either. So you've got multiple things. You've got boomers retiring. You've got the
at an early age,
early age and a higher rate. And then you've got the younger guys who should be joining the workforce are like, I don't need to. Mom and dad will take care of me.
And plus, I got a lot of money from the government this last year.
Right.
All these stimulus.
I think oddly enough, too, Billy, and we see this in the attitude of millennials and Gen Z, is they almost despise how much their parents grinded. Right? They had one of me, and they were never around.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were married to their jobs.
Right.
We took a vacation, but otherwise, we weren't.
There's no loyalty being fostered there.
I don't want to be like that. So I don't totally fault Billy.
He was trained in that. He was discipled in that.
And it was like, you never had time for me, and I don't want that life.
Right. No, notice here, just interestingly, and all this demographics, all the celebration of mom going to the workforce and creating all this wealth. And there's, I'm sure, stuff that we're benefiting from and enjoying because of that. But what did we sacrifice?
And not just
we moved the cost.
We moved. That's what I was going to say. And think about it like this too, though. Let's say that we might not have gotten that big boom at that one time because of both parents, but what you sacrifice is what we're at now.
It's long-term success.
If we would have had mom at home, those 4 kids, maybe even 6. All of a sudden they are creating jobs, they're entering the workforce, and then you have a bigger and better economy, right?
You have to think about the parents. So if they have one, there's 2 of them, they have one, what's their problem? When they're 80?
Nobody take care of them.
Oh.
So they moved, and when they were 20, they're like, it's too expensive. We don't want to do it. Like, we've got our careers. But when they're 80, when they're 90, they're going to be regretting it.
Right. Yeah, no one's
because the cost. So let's say they've got $6 million in the bank. Do you know how much money they're going to have to spend
a month?
Because let's say they live to 120. You know how much money they're going to spend on people who do not want to take care of them? To take care of them, in a society where we don't have enough people.
Right. The premiums is going to
go
through the roof.
We move the cost.
Right.
So what else?
Right.
What are the other things that we're looking at that we don't see? Because right now, no one's seeing this. No one's really talking about this. And when I heard this, I'm like, this is scary stuff, because the world that we didn't like in the pandemic, we might get something worse because the pandemic helped agitate it.
Right. It totally agitated. We basically were going 60 miles per hour and we went 80 miles per hour towards a cliff. And that's the thing about a draconian response. There's a cost benefit, right? There's a you make a hard choice. Well, there's a cost associated with it that we didn't want to look at. Right. And now,
but it sounds like we've been doing that now for several decades, though. Like,
since the 70s.
I mean, we did this back in the day, maybe even before that, when we sent mom to work.
Yeah.
I mean, where we were saying, what's the cost benefit? Well, she can't be home as much, but we got a lot more money in the bank.
Yep.
And we're not having as many kids, but we got more money in the bank.
Yeah.
And that's a suicide pill. It's a demographic suicide.
And we're taking it and smiling.
Yeah, I want to talk
well,
about,
we don't really know.
Well,
So,
I
you know, there's a
specifically
real
want to talk about
ignorance.
what this has done to men. I think there's something there, and then like just abortion is part of this too.
And socially, what is it doing socially to us
Yeah.
as well? All right, more. I hope you're sharing the show. You don't want to miss any of this. More with Rob Sense next on Cross Politic. Woo.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations. Our most precious commodity is time. No one has ever lied on their deathbed wishing they had spent more time making money. They all wish they had spent more time creating a legacy. Our modern education system steals that legacy, steals that time from our children. That's why I'm passionate about homeschooling. That's why at Classical Conversations we want to give you more time to create that legacy, follow your passions, and glorify God. Visit classicalconversations.com for more information.
Have you joined the club yet? I mean, that was super helpful.
Married and have some kids.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, welcome back to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. We're grateful to have Mr. Rob Sense with us.
Yes.
Data economic analyst, executive ninja,
board member at Logos,
and other stuff.
and other stuff, fun stuff, other fun stuff, like being on Cross Politic. Welcome back. So the thing about this that's blowing my mind, and I actually do want to tie this back into Tim Stevens. This is not. I mean, there are massive worldview assumptions driving all of this. This is not just a oops kind of thing.
Right.
We have. I mean, the rejection of God, the rejection of God's word and His authority over our life has had. This is when we're arresting pastors. Okay, you are shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You are. The means by which God intends for the life-giving word to go forth, to equip men and women to be image bearers in this world, to be productive members of society, to be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. The center of that is worship.
That's right.
The center of that is the gathered worship, not Zoom worship. It's people face to face, hearing the gospel preached, being baptized. Having the Lord's Supper together, praying and singing together,
and building community together.
That's the thing. This is all connected, and it's in that world. It's in the Christian world where marriage makes sense, and then where bearing children makes sense, and being productive makes sense. And you can't disconnect that and then expect for things to go well. I mean, we've made the state the center, the government the center, the police, power the center, and when you do that. There's maybe a short-term bump, hey, let's all go to work and make lots of money.
Yeah.
But it has downstream effects that destroy family, destroy men and women and children, and culture and community falls apart. I mean, that's the
right.
big takeaway here. Rob,
one other point I want to introduce there is notice the illustration that Rob gave us and how weak that makes that family. Like just when you don't have a community to protect you.
That's a good point.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like when I got arrested, or when Pastor Tim gets arrested, he's got a whole church behind him.
Right.
Even though bad things are happening with Pastor Tim, he's got support.
Yeah,
but you move out into the beach in Northampton, whatever.
The boomers with little Johnny
Yeah.
don't have a support network.
You're weak.
Well, they like this stuff on Facebook.
They got a community on Facebook.
What they are depending on is their money. They're gonna buy a community.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. They're going to try to buy support, but ultimately that's not going to do any good. Rob, talk to us a little bit about what this has done, particularly to the current workforce, and with an eye particularly on men.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's three key things to be aware of here, right? There's the exodus of the baby boomers,
right,
which happened really fast in 2020. We've never seen it go that fast. And then what we are now experiencing is the prime age workforce. So, if you think about the 16 to 65-year-old, well, there's far fewer of them than we were used to. Right?
16 to 65, that's the working.
Prime age workforce. And what's been talked about in the media a ton is how many women left the market last year.
Okay.
And it made sense, right? Kids are on Zoom calls.
Kids were home.
Right. So you got two spouses working. Mom's like, all right, I'll go home.
Right. I'll take care of kids.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the normal story. Or even things like a lot of jobs like nursing. Surprisingly enough, a lot of nurses got furloughed last year.
Right.
Yeah. There was furloughs.
In a pandemic.
There was furloughs.
Because the hospitals were overcrowded.
Yeah.
Except not.
Go home, nurse.
So furloughs kept people out.
Yep.
Kids at home kept people out. The government benefits we've talked about. Yep. And then in general, just fear. Right, people just kind of were like, I'm gonna pause. So millions, like 2.4 million women stopped out of the market, and that got all the headlines.
Yep.
But then what we didn't talk about is really since the 1980s, men have just gradually been stepping out of the market. So that the trend line here is labor force participation rate for men has been even back in the 1970s above 95%.
Wow.
Right. And now what we're seeing is men go below 90 and stay below 90 and even get in the high 80s.
This is men only.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a weird thing. We've not seen that before. And it's funny because even the difference between like a 1% or 2% swing, a 2% swing in our economy is 6 million people.
Wow. 6 million men in the workforce or not.
That's a lot.
Right.
2%.
Yeah, so our economy is so big, so even a little bit of a percent is hundreds of thousands of people. So we're just like these. What the charts show is a trend line that you can't just you can't move it.
You don't get back.
Right? That trend line goes.
You can't just get people overnight.
And you can't just change their attitude overnight.
Yeah.
That trend line's indicating a lot of societal behavior that.
Pressure, worldview assumptions, and all the rest of it.
So by percentage, this looks like about 18 to 20 million men have left the workforce since the 70s.
Yeah. I mean,
or participation rate. That would be left. Participation rate.
Yeah, we just have fewer and fewer people participating.
So what is it?
Male.
Could you just help me for a second? That's shocking, and that's a problem. So there's some worldview stuff, but ultimately, what is that? The impact of that, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of impact. Let me tell you about why we think that's happening.
Okay,
I mean, there's the wealth issue that's starting to get there. We've talked about that one a little bit. That is also showing up with this attitude about work. So a lot of men, what Gabe has here is more and more men are not participating in the market for non-economic reasons, right? And that's concerning because an economic reason to participate in the market usually means I'm married and I've got kids, I've got a mortgage. I need to make enough money to feed not only myself, but other people. Right. So men who return home in the evening are the basis for forming society because they're under control and they're actually serving other people, a wife, kids, and things like that. But so when you detach men from that, they're working, feed themselves. What are they doing? They're working for non-economic reasons. They're working for themselves. And what they're doing, and what we saw in the data, is they're doing things like playing video games.
And buying boats and going fishing.
They're increasing time for leisure.
Right. Yep.
Just getting enough money. Mom and dad got money. I got a part-time job. Enough money for me, not really building society.
It's almost like it's not good for man to be alone.
Yep.
So they don't have anything to drive them.
I mean, is there like from the beginning, God says this is not a good thing, and it affects. I mean, I think even Christian men, like frequently, we are made to work for others. We're made to support others, to serve others. And the ordinary way that's done is in a family, with a wife and kids. And that's what drives you to go back to work, to work harder, to do more, to support them better. That's part of the way God's just wired us to work.
So video games, how is it? Did you have I remember you telling me at some point that you saw the numbers change in work to video games. They were almost identical. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you look at the reasons men are opting for part-time, it coincided with the rate of video game play.
Okay.
So, what we see the work decrease.
It's not just video games.
Right.
It's leisure.
It's really just leisure.
Well, and look at this graph here. What's amazing is you see the red line is economic reasons, and the bottom line, the blue line, is non-economic reasons. And in 2020, particularly 1920, you see those lines swap.
Right. And presumably that's COVID.
Yeah.
Presumably that's a COVID thing. I'm at home. I'm playing more video games.
And all the incentives that we've talked about,
right?
Hands down.
Yeah.
But that's non-economic reasons are dominating the work. The reasons why people are making especially men are making their decisions in the workforce.
During the last recession, if you go to the other slide there, so you go forward actually, or go other way. There it is. So 2007, 2010, a lot of men started opting for part-time work because they had to.
Why?
Right? Because the housing recession.
Okay.
Right?
So
08, 09,
construction
10.
got blown up, manufacturing got blown up, and those employ a lot of men.
Right.
So men they were trying to find jobs, and they're like, I'll just start working part-time, try to put it together.
Yeah, right.
And it's weird how from that moment until now, men didn't actually go back to full-time.
Interesting.
And I think that coincides with, if I'm working part-time, it's harder to support a family.
Yeah.
And they just kind of stayed there.
Right.
And they didn't go back. So that's kind of a weird thing. We've not seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, even during the Depression, people were still getting married, right? They were still, right? That was still like.
But even if you look at, depressions and recessions decrease marriage and they decrease childbearing. And we thought, a lot of people said, pandemic, everybody's at home.
Yeah.
Baby boom.
Yep. Baby boom. That's what
we
thought.
talked about that on the show. Yeah.
Opposite.
So,
people are stressed out. People don't get married and they don't have kids.
Wow.
When they're, when everything's
stressed.
like topsy-turvy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we did not have a COVID boom.
We had 600,000 fewer births last year than we should have.
600,000?
Yeah.
Wow. So is the answer, we have not enough people, so immigration. That will solve the problem, right?
Well, we start having to import people from somewhere because if we don't have the people here, we still need people to do these jobs.
Yeah, and that's really how the U.S. So a lot of countries like Japan doesn't have immigration,
right?
And Japan is done. I mean,
You say done.
Demographically done.
Yeah, I mean they're closing schools. They have 80-year-olds picking up garbage. They're in it.
And that's why their economy has been for a couple of decades
stagnant.
It's deflated.
Stagnation.
Like, it's in declension. It's slowing, and you're saying a big part of that is they just don't have enough people.
Yeah, they don't have enough people, and they don't have any immigration.
Right.
The U.S. has a lot of immigration, but when we make this argument, or we've talked about this in the data, the first response is, immigration can fix it.
Right.
And it's like, to a certain degree, and we're really dependent on it.
Or at least put it off, maybe.
But if we look at the three countries that send the most people here, China, India, and Mexico, what's China's problem? Same problem. Worse than us.
Yeah.
India.
Oh, yeah.
India's population is crashing. And Mexico, same deal.
Wow.
They're all heading below 2. So this is I think, to me, this is the specter of darkness chart that's on the world right now.
Specter of darkness.
Oh, my goodness.
Where the world population, the world birth rate has so dramatically crashed. And then you have all these other countries, like look at U.S., China, Italy, look at Korea.
Right.
And this means, in ancient days, what happened to the Hittites?
Right.
Like that's a made up name, right?
Right.
They were a real civilization.
It's like Middle Earth, like that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to be like Italians.
Yeah.
That's a made up.
Who are the Italians?
That's a made up name.
Right.
They're gone.
Yeah. A myth.
So explain this to me. This is birth rates here, but our population's still growing year over year in the U.S.
Yeah.
So what do you mean birth rates are crashing, but population's still increasing?
So yes, the world population is still growing, but the rate of growth has dramatically slowed down. Mm-hmm. So what it's starting to do is curve, right? So we know the population growth is going up, but we experienced the smallest population increase, 0.35, in the history of the United States last year.
Okay.
0.35 population growth.
Okay.
But
the votes were amazing in the election.
Yeah. So
another conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like getting on a mountain, getting towards the top, slowing down, and then with the numbers. If we look at birth rate, we are so below replacement that once you crest and go. So like,
you can't recover.
So like, back in 1970s, you got there's the 4 kids. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's say they all have kids. But when they stopped and then you only have 1, you can't reverse back.
Right.
Because that 1 can't replace what the 4 could do in any sort of like 50 or 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens is you kind of crest that birth rate, kind of crest here, and we're still experiencing. We don't see the birth rate right now because we have this population still growing. But once that birth rate starts to decline, maybe 50 years down the road, then we start to see what that means.
Yeah, the birth rate's already declined. It started declining it's been in decline for 50 years.
And I'm just saying that birth rate will translate into not having the people for the economy and not being able to recover from it.
So the boomers have moved through higher ed. Now they've actually moved through market, and what's going to start to happen? Well, now they're going to start to pass away. And as they do, like we have population growth. Where is it? Above 65.
Wow.
We do not have population growth below 14.
Interesting.
Okay,
so
that's the problem.
So some of I've seen little reports here and there of some of like European countries like trying to address this with like checks or tax rebates for having kids.
Yeah, Russia.
Vladimir Putin.
How's that going?
It's horrible. I mean, so pretty much.
You mean the government can't fix all their problems?
So Europe, I'd say a lot of Europe, a lot of Asia, and Russia have all tried to deal with this. And to them, it's funny because you're running for president over there. This is a top 3 issue.
Population.
Wow. Right? So what they've done is they've tried to incentivize population growth, and it's failed dramatically in every setting. I think there's like maybe one in the Republic of Georgia where they've seen some positive gains. I think they completely detached it from economic reasons. They made it more about family.
Okay.
But yeah, places like France, Italy, Russia, Japan, it hasn't worked. And so it's not a government problem. It's a society. It's a family problem.
It's a culture problem.
You can't. The government can't fix that problem.
Right.
This is interesting because right now there's a huge push to try and fix issues of the past with racial issues. And we were talking about this on the show a couple weeks ago that black people are having abortions at a rate 3 times that of white people. And everybody's trying to go in one way or another and fix like the past social issues. But we have a problem where it's like, I've seen it all the time. I just saw it at the SBC. They want to platform a black person. Well, no, we need a black person. No, we need somebody else here. And it's like, guys, if they're killing themselves at 3 times the rate of white people, and we don't even have white people, we have a people problem. No one, and there's almost like kind of like we're being held back. Like at this point, no one is stopping anybody from doing anything. Look, if you can come here, we'll hire you.
You got 2 hands?
Yeah.
You got a back?
We'll
2
pay
legs?
for you to go to college. There's nothing that's holding anybody back from being able to get inside this market and work. And really at this point, at whatever standard they want to. I want
wages
this.
Are good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good time to be able to say, I want this, I want that. It's like we're fine.
Yeah, you will be catered to. So this is a pretty hard, scary kind of message. But for people who do want to work, for young people who do want to get into the market, I don't care what your skin color is, you can do really well if you have an attitude of like, I want to work. So I mean, it's actually what we've been talking about, a message for youngsters who do want to work, or a message for families, a bunch of kids who are a little concerned, like, I don't know what to do. Well, guess what? Every single one of those kids is 10 times more valuable than you could even understand.
Right.
And it's totally true. Like no one's standing in front of Sonic playing defense, trying to keep
where are you
them
from?
out of there.
What do you look like?
Right. No, and so I think the racial issues are funny because it's a little signally to me, because I think the thing that a company actually is dealing with, or a community college, a university, a city, a company, the thing they're seeing is We just put out. We've been trying to register students, for college. We put out our ads. We only had like 2 people apply.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, we don't care.
Yeah.
Like, do you want
Right.
Do you want this? Do you want to go to school here? Do you want this job?
Right.
Do you want to live here?
No one has a luxury to discriminate right now at all.
Nope.
And they haven't had the luxury to really discriminate at all. I've even watched with nursing. My mom's an RN. When I was growing up, they were paying for people. Hospitals were paying for nurses to go to school.
Yep.
And just because they needed the work then, that was one of the industries that really saw that we need people. Yeah. And so it's not, I know people will make fun of the fact that, you said Sonic, but it's not just Sonic.
Right.
It's every industry out there.
Did you say that
people.
McDonald's was paying people?
Yeah. Just to interview.
Just to interview?
Yeah. Yeah. So all the parts of the market are feeling it. Entry levels. And tricky thing about entry level is that needs to be the 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. They're not there just for the money. They're there for that experience.
And they're learning to work.
Yeah.
And they're learning the fruitfulness of labor and then the benefits of that.
Yeah. And then in the middle, if you got the 28-year-old who's got a degree and I don't really want to work, well, like that job that dad just left or mom just left, it's a senior level position. That job's in trouble because they're turning around going, who's next? And it's like, I don't know.
There's nobody there.
So it does mean that a lot of companies are promoting people and hiring people way faster and without as much experience. So again, that's an opportunity for people.
Right.
Just notice like how easy God's making it for the church right now.
Yes.
Just if you have a family.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
But there's also, his word is the path. It's not good for man to be alone. Get married, have kids,
go baptize.
And when you do that, it actually is hard. You have to deny yourself.
Yep.
You have to take up your cross. And you have to follow Jesus in that in order to be faithful in your marriage vows, in order to be faithful as a mom and a dad, in order to be faithful every day till you die, going to work, bringing home a paycheck, having a house, doing all the things. But what you're doing is you're actually walking in the way that God designed the world to work.
Yep,
you're not fighting nature. You're fighting your sin.
And if a family's having 1.5 kids or whatever, and you're having 4, 5, 6 kids, you're just going to turn the battle into a numbers game. We've talked about this on the show before.
That's what I wanted to ask Rob. So with this going on worldwide, and especially in America, in our nation, what are the strategic moves? And I'm just going to give an example. Do you find a place where it's like, okay, where is there a culture society that is fruitful and plant there? Because if you're not in that environment, you're kind of screwed in one sense, right?
Yeah.
So what do you see practically are some good things to do to try and get out of this, or at least survive it in one way or another?
Yeah. Well, I think one point there is you mentioned that is there's one place in the world that's still growing. And this is kind of interesting if we want to talk about race. Mm-hmm. A lot of Africa is still growing.
That's right.
Wow.
So if we don't like white people, guess what? Good news. They're going away. If you like black people, guess what?
Yeah.
They're growing.
Africa's growing.
Africa is still one of the only places in the world growing. And that, I would say that's a signal.
Not if Bill Gates has anything to do with it.
I was going to say, right.
But that would be a signal. So economically, who's going to be doing well in the future?
Right.
Wow.
Africa.
And who's going to be struggling?
Us.
Right? So that, right now we don't feel it, but it's like that's just a numbers game.
Right.
But there are still some places, oddly enough, in the country where we're seeing population. And I would say it's not so much looking at population growth, it's looking at where do we still have youngsters, right? And what we see right now is the Pacific Northwest, Southwest, parts of Texas, and oddly enough, Florida. So
it's just weird.
I think we need to think of Florida and California almost in reverse. We've thought of California as being the young, like LA and young people. Yeah. California, or LA in particular, has seen population growth of 555,000 people above 65 in like 10 years.
Wow.
And the exact opposite amongst people below 16.
Wow.
So in 10 years, basically LA just turned into like an old person city.
Right.
In that exact same time, Florida has seen the exact opposite.
Wow.
Where they're
Younger
seeing
demographics.
a lot of young.
Yeah.
So and it's just a narrative that's been with us for so long.
Yeah.
That is,
it's the same thing with churches.
Yeah.
When you walk into a church and there's no young people, that church is on a death spiral.
We know that.
You know that. Where are the kids?
Yeah.
Where are all the kids? Oh, we sent them to children's church and then they left and they're gone.
That's right.
Right. That's how you know a church is going to thrive and is thriving or not. It's the same thing with an economy. It's the same thing with a culture, with a community. Are there lots of kids? Well, then you know these people believe in life. They believe in family.
Yeah.
They believe in they're saying that the sacrifice is worth it.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is, and that means a lot of delayed gratification. It's not immediate gratification. It's not like I want the paycheck now, so we're all going to go to work and we're not going to have very many kids so we can buy the boat and the second house and all the rest of it. It's saying, no, I'm going to invest. I'm going to pour my seed into the ground, and it's going to take a long time to grow these fruit trees.
Yeah.
But when they grow, it's going to be an abundant harvest.
And I think when we think when we look at that data, what we saw with the baby boomers, which I think there's some things to be thankful about there. We live in the wealthiest society that's ever existed on the planet, and we're kind of grumpy and fussy about it.
Right.
So I mean, that's
first world problems.
Yeah, that's a huge thing to stop being fussy about. But what is also betrayed is we've lived so sort of materialistically. Like the way we've judged people is their economic output. Like how much money do you make?
Right.
And what this shows and tells is that the investment in people. So, for instance, a family that has a good job and also has people raising children. So, like, there's two roles there.
Right.
That has benefits beyond a paycheck. And there's a value there that we've sort of we've written off.
Pushed to the side, yeah.
And now I think hopefully, like, as we pass away, like, when will this get fixed? I don't know. We'll be all gone.
Right.
Like, as we pass away, hopefully there's a new generation that says, no, we actually truly value the rearing of children. Right. Not, if there is an economic argument
Sure.
but
it's more than that.
Yeah. We can't just look at it through that lens.
I think we've said this before, but people are the most valuable resource in the universe.
That's right.
People are made in the image of the living God.
Yeah.
People are creative and thoughtful and intelligent, and they make music and they make art and they invent things and they discover because they're made in the image of the maker. Right. That is the most valuable resource in the universe. And you can't cut that off and then expect things to go well. But you can't welcome that resource rightly if you don't know the maker whose image they bear.
That's right.
Well,
And you reject the maker and then you hate the image. And what you're doing is you're cutting yourself off from the source of all life and fruitfulness and joy.
It's suicide.
It is.
And that's what happens. You go insane. This is Romans 1. We are sitting up here after the 70s and 50, 60 million babies.
Yeah.
It's almost God's like, if you want to kill yourself, here you go.
Yeah, right.
You know, like that's
professing themselves to be wise, they become utter and complete fools.
You would think the first thing you want to do is like, we got to stop killing these babies. Let's make this illegal. Then we're going to lose ourselves here. That's not what's happening.
The Bible verse that keeps popping up in my mind, it started in the second segment, was Mark 8:36. What profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?
Yeah.
And that's what we've done is we've created a generation that has gained the world.
Yeah.
We've gained the biggest economy in the history of the world, the richest nation in the history of the world.
Lost our souls.
And we lost our souls through it all.
Yeah. Pray for Pastor Tim Stevens.
Yeah.
Free Tim Stevens.
The other pastors who are standing faithfully. This is all connected. Don't miss that.
It's all
Worshiping the
connected.
triune God is knowing your maker so that you can honor and bless image bearers.
Amen.
So that you can be fruitful and multiply.
Rob, thank you for joining us, man. This is
Yeah,
so
man.
serious.
Rob,
Appreciate
appreciate
you,
it, man.
brother.
Yeah.
If you're single, get married.
Yeah.
If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
We did not design a cookie-cutter curriculum meant to chop students into appropriately shaped submissives or snowflakes for the secular zeitgeist. We designed our curriculum the way we did because we want our graduates to be equipped to stand courageously against that destructive zeitgeist and to honor their maker and how they, body, mind, and soul, battle to save their communities and the entire Western world from our current diseased insanity. New St. Andrews College is not in the business of rubber stamping graduates for this particular job market or that particular career. We aren't happy unless our graduates are equipped to tackle any constructive cultural task anywhere, from courtrooms to hospitals to job sites to movie sets to the highest risk job and the most important setting of all, the raising and training of the next generation of immortal souls around dining room tables and in pews. The world may have gone mad, but it's not the first time. It has been saved before and by particular people, many of whom shared a very particular type of education. Augustine, Calvin, Jefferson, Churchill, and many lesser-known heroes in times of madness all had one type of education, one type of training in common. And it's the same kind of rigorous education we currently pursue surrounded by the rolling wheat fields of Idaho. By God's grace, our civilization will be saved, or rebuilt, from the smoking ruins. The men and women capable of such a task, capable of fearless joy and fiery laughter, all while undertaking such hard cultural labor, those are the kind of graduates we want, the kind we expect. They are why we exist, and why we teach what we teach. So you might call it a major in world building, or culture shaping, or a major in saving civilization. We call it classical Christian liberal arts. New St. Andrews College, saving civilization since 1994.